All right, and we are good to go. Caleb Smalley, how you doing, man?
I'm good, bro.
So, your Army
Yes. Army National Guard.
and National Guard. Wait, so it's two separate things.
No, there's active duty Army and there's National Guard.
I should know this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, this is probably something, as a taxpayer, I should probably know.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, you probably should. So, basically, you get called out to respond to anything they need to.
Anything that the governor sees fit.
Okay.
I would need a state of emergency or whatever, something like that.
Right. Which the Capitol riots were one of them. But I don't want to get there yet. We're going to talk about that. But you were also deployed to downtown Atlanta.
Yes.
For those.
Yep.
How was that?
It was great. It was super cool.
Like, what did you do, though?
Not much. We just protected, basically, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Just sat outside and told people they couldn't go in, more or less.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy.
So you didn't have to go to, like, this where the CNN Center was?
I did. We moved around a lot. So there was, like, most of our time we spent at Mercedes-Benz, and then we did another one. We were in Centennial Park doing, like, road closures and stuff. And we had this big old column. We closed up this mile stretch of road. It was pretty cool. I delivered a package.
Delivered a package?
Sweet. Yeah, some dude's like, hey, man, let me, it's like, I got to go to 380 or something. I was like, oh, I don't know where that is. And I look and I see this big 380 hanging off this building. I was like, well, I can't let you in. And he's like, can you deliver this package for me?
My kids are going to start.
Yeah, he's like, can you deliver this package? I was like, I guess. And I just went in and delivered that package.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
That taxpayer
Civil servant, bro.
Jeez, man. That's crazy. So you delivered the package. What are you, like, briefed? Like, what are your responsibilities when you get there? What are they
protection of, like, property and civilians and all that other stuff. So basically, we're just there to make sure that nothing bad happens and to, like, assist the police. Not really assist the police. It kind of depends. It just really depends. But mostly it's just protecting people and property.
Yeah, but they're, like, you're kind of hands-off, though, I guess? Or do you let the police and then the local...
Yeah, so, like, we can't arrest people because we're not cops. But, you know, if you're jumping on our truck and, like, trying to break things, like, you know...
Well, like, what do? You call the police?
No. Like, we'll handle it. Like, we'll do whatever we have to do, you know?
Just slam them, zip tie them up.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, hey,
we had zip ties, riot control stuff, batons, and, like, riot shields and stuff. But, we never used any of
That's a controversial thing right now, zip ties, you know?
Yeah.
Because the Capitol rioters, they had zip ties.
Yeah,
they were like, men armed with zip ties toward the Capitol. I was like, what?
Violent insurrection.
Violent insurrection with zip ties. I was like, okay. What's so you just get a phone call and you just got to go. Like, walk me through the process of you're hanging at home with your family.
Well, with Atlanta, I was basically just watching the riots, and I was like, well, we're going. Like, I pretty much knew
when you saw what was going on.
Yeah, I saw. I was like, "There's no way we don't get called out for that." So, you know, I'm waiting, and I'll talk to my guys, and they're like, "Oh, well, we haven't heard anything yet, so just, you know, basically just wait, and then we'll wait until we get an actual call."
So you guys are like texting each other, like, "Hey, we're probably going to go."
Yeah, yeah, and that's the same thing with DC. As soon as DC happened, we're like, "Yeah, we're probably going to get called up for that."
Okay.
And sure enough, we did.
So your chain of command calls your guy that calls you, I guess. Like, it just trickles down.
Yeah, basically.
And then you have to go to a place to get, like, loaded up, like...
kind of, sort of. Yeah, like the armory. Yeah, we'll just go to the armory. We've got guns and everything else we need.
And they're all, like,
plates
standardized
and
guns?
Stuff. Yeah, it's all M4s.
What are you guys running?
It's just M4s. Colt. It's either Colt or Knight's Armament. I think it's Colt M4s.
Colt M4s?
Yeah, M4A1s, I think, the full auto ones.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty
Get
good.
a little giggle switch?
Yeah.
Nice. Do they give you guys attachments for them and everything, too? Like,
yeah, they have, like, CCO. So I think it's the M68. It depends. There's two different types of red dots, and then a PEG 15 generally. You know what PEG 15 is, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's just a laser, IR laser.
oh, yeah.
else? ACOGs. That's pretty much it.
Like Trigicon ACOGs?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Sweet. No tax stamps on the SBRs?
No, they're actually not SBRs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're full length, 16 inches, I think.
Oh, really?
So.
Okay. Wow. How often do you have to train on this?
We go out like once a year, maybe. Generally once a year. Well, it just depends. It depends on how intense our training cycle is. Because right now we have a pretty intense training cycle lined up. So we'll go out for... Like, I don't have drill next month because I'm going on this, like, big, like, week-long gunnery drill thing because I'm with the Delta company. So I like heavy machine guns, 50 cals, and
that's
stuff
cool.
like that. So
where do you guys
tow
go
missiles. What's up?
Where do you do that?
Fort Stewart.
Okay. You guys just go blow stuff up.
Yeah, more or less.
Jeez, for a week?
Yeah.
They don't know there's an ammo shortage?
Yeah, no, I guess it only affects you if you're civilian, so I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Dang. So, going downtown Atlanta, I was actually part of because and a lot of viewers don't know that you're a firefighter as well. So you're serving basically on every capacity humanly possible.
Right.
Like, you're serving in three different ways. Yeah. You're involved in public service, which is pretty cool, and was probably giving you insight on everything from going into people's homes up to a large scale in DC.
Right.
Have you ever thought about that? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you go into somebody's trailer park and deal with the dude that's pooping on himself.
Right.
And then you go from there to DC to protect the vice president.
Yeah.
Like, you've hit that's like every box. Just about.
No, I just have to be a part of a full-scale invasion. And
All we gotta do is invade.
Real Renaissance man of
ready to go. So how long were you downtown Atlanta? Like,
between like 10 and 15 days the first time, and the second time, I don't know. That was so weird. I think altogether maybe it was like 14 days.
Where do you stay? Like, you stay?
We stood at the what is it? World Congress Center?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And
that was cool. We just stayed in there.
You bring like cots and stuff?
We didn't stay overnight.
Oh, okay.
We'd go out in the morning, be out there all day, and then go sometime, probably around like 10 o'clock or so, back to the Armory, which is in Atlanta. So we just drive back to the Armory, sleep for a couple hours, get back up, and go right back out. So and that was
nighttime
for like 10
is
days straight.
Like, nighttime's whenever all the crazy stuff happens, though.
Kind of. Well, Atlanta was pretty calm.
Really?
Honestly, yeah. Everybody came out the first day. The first day was pretty bad because they kind of... The way that it started out was really good. Nothing bad was happening because they were just marching through the streets, doing whatever. And then everybody kind of got trapped. The cops kind of surrounded them. And then they're like, well, let's just start breaking stuff, basically.
Oh,
and that's when all the bad stuff happened. And then... After that, it was pretty calm. Like,
so you think maybe it was because they felt cornered?
Probably, yeah.
That's really interesting. I wonder, and I'm not police. I don't know anything about police tactics, and military is different.
Right.
I'm wondering if they took that into consideration. Like,
yeah. I mean, probably. Well, not a lot of people got arrested that first night. Also,
yeah.
The mayor was making a big thing about not arresting people. So,
no, doesn't look good.
Yeah. Which.
Throwing protesters to the ground.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It was interesting, though, seeing it all happen live. It was cool, I guess.
Atlanta's always, I think, been really good about keeping things under control.
Yeah.
I chalk it up to, like, most Atlantans are really lazy.
Just don't want to go.
They're like,
whatever.
They do it for a day, and then they're like, Then you hear people
that was
like,
cool, but...
Portland, like, things are still happening in Portland.
Yeah, Antifa is like... Portland and Seattle are being, like, overrun by Antifa right now.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately.
And I haven't seen, like, a huge Antifa demonstration or Antifa in Atlanta, really. I mean, I think I saw, like, a few that I was like, maybe they are.
Well, a lot of people, when that stuff was happening before Antifa kind of really, like, dug their claws in and were everywhere, people were, like, kicking Antifa members' ass. They're like, this guy's trying to break a bunch of bricks out of the ground. Like, let's get them.
Because they didn't want them to.
Yeah,
because
they didn't want that. They wasn't trying to be a violent protest. So.
Right. And those guys want it to be violent. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. Is you've got people and they're almost on the, or at least mainstream media has you believe that they're on the same side of the aisle.
Right.
And that they'd all be agreeing with each other.
Right.
And you'll hear that thrown around a lot. Antifa and Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Attack, blah, blah. And then when you're actually down there, you kind of see, like, they're not really... They're, like, trying to stop them from being violent.
Yeah, and kind of like... So we went out for, what was it, for when it was the Wendy's shooting the second time, and the first time was for George Floyd.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like... They were, like, a lot of the people were out there were, like, obviously upset. Like, they were out there, they weren't out there to break a bunch of stuff or, the government, let's kick the government's ass or something. They're out there for a legitimate reason. So, and it was, you kind of saw that a lot of people were kind of, like, just upset and, like people were coming up to us and, like, you guys are racist and all this stuff. I'm like, my buddy that I'm working with, he freaking is a bagger at Kroger.
Yeah.
Like, just bags groceries all day when he's not working for the guards. So I was like, they're kind of, like, obviously upset, for an understandable reason, but they're kind of, like, almost ignorant to who they were mad about or mad at, I guess. So
they're just angry in general.
Yeah, just
and
upset.
Then they lash out at the first uniform they see is what happens. And it's something I've had to experience being downtown.
Right.
And when in my experience downtown was Charlottesville. Remember that?
I think so.
There was like, and I'm even vague on the details of what was going on. I think it was like, remember the tiki torches?
Yeah.
There was like all the people with tiki torches, and then I think somebody plowed into some
to, like,
a bunch
it was
of people
like
with
a Challenger or something like that. Or
yeah,
like,
he decided to play
crazy.
Death Race 2000 or whatever, rack up some bonus points, and there was not anything near the scale of what we saw recently, but a lot of, like, Black Lives Matter showed up. They were blocking the streets,
right?
And not letting anybody through. And police were there, and they were trying to, like, disperse the crowd, and they got a little out of hand, and they were throwing stuff over the police line at them, throwing police line at us, and I think we kind of learned from a lot of those previous riots, because now it's like fire department just backs up.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, that's also, it was, where was it? I think it was in Kenosha before, it was either before or after the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing. The Kenosha Fire Department, it was a 5-station department. They had, like, over 50 working fires, and they were calling in, like, they were calling in mutual aid from up to, like, 80 miles away. Like, yeah, that was insane. And, like, you're seeing pictures of these, like just totally involved, like, fully involved 15-story buildings, like apartments and stuff. Like, it was insane.
Yeah, they're not ready to handle that.
Yeah, especially
like, one of those would probably bring in the entire department. And then you have all of them.
Yeah, and then you have, like, over 50 of them. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then too, on top of that, you just have to worry about normal people outside of riots that automatically hate people in uniform. Right. Especially downtown, which is something I've had to deal with when people see you and they hate you, and then they just want to assault you, or like a gang shooting or something like that. Like, I mean, it's pretty crazy. You show up and they do not want you there. It's pretty wild. Even though you're literally only there to help. Yeah, you're literally... I don't care if you've done drugs, dude. I'm here to help you. Like overdoses, those guys are like laid out. They're like, oh, I don't know. He just passed out. You're like, I've never done drugs before. Yeah, I drink protein shakes, man. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. And then you have to tell them, like, hey, I'm not the police. Like, I can't arrest you. I can't do anything. Like, I don't know. And then they're like, oh, yeah, he was, taking meth for the last, 10 days. He needs heroin to sleep, like. As is tradition. Yeah. Don't we all? Go to sleep with a little bit of heroin. To go to sleep. Jeez. So how long were you home before you actually went up to the Capitol? So I stopped, let's see, I've been gone most of the year, most of the last year. I was doing COVID stuff, and then the riots. I got back you did COVID stuff? For the Guard? Sorry to cut you off, but... Just cleaning, sanitizing old folks' homes and stuff. I didn't know that. Yeah, it was kind of whack.
but
it's kind of what you're used to going into old people's homes. Anyways.
Like it was okay. I mean, we were just like we'd go in our suits and spray the place down and wipe it up and then mop up and then leave.
Where were the old people?
They were there. We were just like spraying them,
wipe off the glasses. Yeah. Old lady falls. You're like, call the fire department. I can't help you. That's a fire department's job.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool, but I mean, whatever. It was easy. I lived in a hotel in Alpharetta for most of the year, so.
Jeez, man.
And then I got back off orders September, and then back out there now. I just got back a couple days ago.
And then what are you doing now?
I'm on quarantine right now, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, still working for the guard still. So.
And that's kind of, I feel like, indefinite, like, right?
Or
they give you time
for a couple weeks, next couple days.
Do they like swap you guys out? Like, okay, you've wiped down enough stuff. Like you're.
No, that was so when we were doing it. I mean, it was kind of like we have like a job for the day. Like we're like, oh, we're going here today, and we'll just drive up, do it, and then come home. It's like 4 hours of work. Like it was like super easy. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So when you go back to your fire shift?
Well, I just took all my vacation days off. So
you'd use vacation?
No, this literally lined up perfectly. And so I'm on orders right now with the guard, so I'm working for the guard, still doing stuff for the guard, and then when I get off, I took almost all of February off. So I'm basically but I got all my vacation days back.
Okay, cool. I was about to say, like, that's not right.
Yeah.
So you came back from Atlanta. You were deployed again to go wipe up old people's houses.
No, so that was originally. I did COVID stuff first, then to Atlanta, and then it was just like finishing out my orders. I just came into the armory and cleaned or whatever.
Gotcha.
Until September, and then worked at the station for a little bit, and then now we're having this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wanted to get you like as soon as I could. I was like, we need to I have a lot of questions.
I would have done it there, but people were getting like, I'm sure you probably, the whole insider attack thing.
Yeah.
They were like they didn't give us guns on election day.
Yeah.
Because they were afraid that we were going to
I've dedicated
turn
my
the
life
tables on them. It's so
I've dedicated
ridiculous.
my life to serving this country, but now's the day. I'm ready to take over.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
it's my turn to sit in the big chair. So what was that? So, because the Capitol riots though were kind of took everybody by surprise. Because originally they said that they called the National Guard and then they were refused.
Got denied, yeah.
But that also happened, and everybody's kind of jumped to like, oh, it was a big conspiracy. Like they wanted it to happen. Right. But I remember the same thing happened in Atlanta. They were wanting earlier riots, like in Atlanta. They were requesting National Guard. National Guard said no. So why is National Guard seem like hesitant to like jump in?
It's not like the National Guard is hesitant to. I mean, honestly, like we don't want to go anyway. We don't really want to be there. Like we have our own lives that we're taking care of and dealing with. Mm-hmm. But like, it's I don't know. It's like I really don't know because there's a process. I think like Kemp has to like. Is it still Governor Kemp, right? I think so. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah.
There's so much going on. Yeah, Governor Kemp.
So basically, I think he has to do a state of emergency. He has to declare a state of emergency, and then we get called up for relief or whatever. Mm. And with Atlanta, I mean, I'm sure there's probably a point where Atlanta PD is like, no, we can handle this. Like this is us. And then like, okay, maybe we need to call the National Guard or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
I guess, yeah. I'm just curious of you. I always hear these stories, and
they're like, get the guard, and the guard's like, nope.
Yeah. Guard's like, nah, bro.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a decision made way above my head. So
yeah, because I heard like with Atlanta riots, I remember. they were like, "Oh, we request the National Guard and all this stuff," and they said no, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's a conspiracy because the left wing wants riots to happen, and then to get the right wing all riled up and cause like all this division." But I specifically remember times before too, like where they're like, "Hey, we need National Guard," and excuse me, and then I also know APD pretty well and how they operate, and they're super aggressive.
Yeah,
like almost to a fault. I mean, there were stories in the news about like all the red dogs, like
red dogs just banging on people.
Yeah, like jacking people up. Like, I mean, I remember, and I can't remember which exactly riots it was before Charlottesville, but they started marching on Ponce and like literally they were kind of started marching the street. You could kind of see a crowd like gathering,
right?
And these cops like drove up. There was all of them there, and I saw like actual cell phone footage of somebody that lives in the apartments. They had it up there, and they were like, "APD does not play."
Right.
And they drove up the center of them like slowly, and they weren't hurting people, and everybody's like freaking out. Cut the crowd in half. They all got like out of the cars, and they just started grabbing people and like throwing them like on the sidewalk. And they were like, "Go home," and then it was shut down like that. Like, you're not gonna do this, So I was wondering if that had something to do with it. Of like APD, from what I've seen in the past, is pretty good about.
I mean, like we had everybody out there. Like, was it DNR? I think, right? Mm-hmm. DNR was out there. A bunch of I think there was a TAC P out there. That was pretty funny.
What's that?
Like, TAC P. It's like Air Force, like they call them like airstrikes and stuff. And so this was pretty funny.
Napalm Ponce.
I don't even think he was a real person. I think he was like some dude that, like, part of me thinks that he was just out there cosplaying as a TAC P dude because. So I don't keep, like, with my vest, I don't keep a rank on my vest. I wear that 511 Tech.
Yeah.
And I don't keep a rank on my vest, and I also don't keep my name on it because I don't want, especially when I'm out there, I don't want people to know my name.
Yeah.
And people will just walk up to me, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And it's what I call command presence. Like, I have a really good command presence, so I'll be like, people just come up, and they're like, "Hey, bro, what's going on here?" Like, a colonel comes up, "What's going on, man?" Like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. So this dude comes up out of nowhere. I'm just talking to my buddy. We're standing outside my truck. And this dude comes up. He's like, "Hey, brother, what's going on, man? What's the plan?" Something like that. And I look, and this dude's got like a high-cut helmet, and he's got his ear pro flipped back. He's just sleeves are all rolled up, and it says TAC P on the side of his helmet. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what are you? I was like, I don't know. Like, my commander's over here if you want to go talk to him, but I have no idea. Yeah, I don't even think that dude was real.
Dude, that's hilarious. He's probably just some LARPers waiting, dude. He's just like sitting there waiting for it. That's hilarious. Yeah. He probably had better equipment than you guys have. That's
I mean, he just looked super high speed. I was like, I don't know.
I go to the range almost every day. Okay, dude.
Virtual range.
Chill out. Dude, that's really funny. Especially, I never thought about that, not wearing your name. Like, people, you don't want somebody to see you.
I took it off on my way there. So everybody left, and then I left about an hour behind everyone because I didn't have a helmet. Mm-hmm. And so they had to go to where they issue out gear, grab a helmet, bring it back, and then we're driving on the way there. And so we're driving, and this is like the day after, it's like the second day of all the rides and everything. I'm putting my helmet together, and I'm kitted up, and we're driving through. It's off Fulton Industrial. Mm-hmm. So was that Buckhead or
not Buckhead?
Bankhead.
Like, you're getting your Bankhead.
Yeah,
that's
Bankhead.
like where I was stationed.
Yeah, so
that's like the no zone.
Yeah,
you know in The Lion King when he's like, "What's that dark shadowy thing over there?" That's Bankhead. Don't go to Bankhead.
Yeah, so
you're in Bankhead.
Fulton Industrial to Bankhead, and rolling up in this dope. What is it? Might be a Tundra, Toyota Tundra, maybe. I don't know. It's sick.
That the guard gives you?
No, it was a personal vehicle, but
oh, nice.
Wasn't. Cut that out. Yes, anyway, we're rolling in this government vehicle, right?
Yeah.
And so we go up to Bankhead, and there's this crowd of people, and I'm like, man, this is like really far from Atlanta, or like from the city to be out here already. And so we're driving up, and this APD dude is just standing there. He's like standing over in the middle of this crowd, just kind of standing over this dude who's on the ground. And I'm like, damn, was he arresting him or something? And then we kind of keep driving, and he's just standing there, like not doing anything. And I'm like, oh, so this guy is hurt. And they're like, the guy driving's like, should we stop? Should we pull over? I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm an EMT. Maybe I can try and help out. And so we pull over. I like throw my helmet down, and I get out. And I'm like full speed running over to this dude. And as I'm running up, I see this dirt bike that is totaled. It's completely totaled. And I run up, and he's laying on the ground, and I'm like, what happened? What happened? And like, oh, he wrecked his bike. I'm like, okay. So I see this dude, he's laying on the ground, and he's pretty dark-skinned. Mm-hmm. And he is not wearing any protective equipment, and he's got road rash on his body. He's got these crazy patches of road rash where his skin is like white. It's completely white. I can see his tattoos underneath his road rash and stuff. And he's bleeding. He's got this gnarly head wound, but he's like so dark skinned that I can't tell where he's bleeding from. Yeah. Like his blood is like, I could tell that he's got blood on his head because it's like coagulating and stuff. Yeah. And so he's in like a wife beater, and his pants are like falling off of his waist. And so I get over, and I'm like, basically my plan was to, if he had anything crazy, was basically going to tourniquet him if I had to, and then just basically hold C-spine until whoever got there, Marietta or whoever it was. Mm-hmm. So I get up there, run up, and I'm like, yeah, what happened? And they're like, yeah, he crashed his bike. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go down, and I'm talking to him, like, hey, bro, just relax. Like, I'm going to hold your head. Just try and relax. He was kind of, like, hesitant for a second, like, because I would assume he probably didn't know what was going on. He's got this crazy head wound. And so he finally relaxes, and I've got good C-spine on him, and then people start kind of crowding in around us, and I'm like, back up. Mm-hmm. And I think someone reached down and like touched him. It just started touching him, and they like grabbed his shirt and pulled on it, and he's got this gnarly road rash. So this shirt was like stuck to his road rash. Mm. And dude, they touch him or something, and then he gets up. He was laying down on his back, and he goes, ah! And he like stands up and starts like trying to walk off. And I'm like, I have no idea what to do. I'm like, bro, like I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So I'm like grabbing him, and I'm like, bro, just relax, just sit down. And eventually he keeps trying to walk away, and so that's why I took my name tape off after this, because I have my name tape on. They're like, Smalley, do something, bro, do something. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I can't. I was gonna part of me was like grabbing him and throwing him on the ground and like holding him down. Yeah. But I was like, no, you can't do that. Yeah. Like, that's not a good idea. Yeah. So we finally get him to sit down, and they're like, take your shirt off. I'm like, nobody fucking touch him. Like, nobody touch him. And I cut his shirt off. I had these really trauma shears, and I'm like sawing through this dude's like Walmart wife beater with these really terrible trauma shears. I cut his shirt off of him, and then right around, so I'm covered in blood, by the way. Like, I've got blood all over my hands. No, I didn't have time really to put gloves on. Which that doesn't really bother me. Like, a little bit of blood, whatever. But like, I've got blood on my uniform. Like, my hands are like covered in blood, and so we get there. He's sitting on the ground, and he's like, I didn't really have time to like see if he was actually totally with it. Yeah, we just got him to calm down and sit on the ground. Yeah. So whoever it was shows up. It was the engine showed up, and I was just like, yeah, this is what happened. Blah blah blah, and then we left. So the guy that I was with, he's like, I got some water, man, if you want to like rinse your hands off. And I'm like rinsing this blood. I had like gross bloody hands for like I don't even know, like a couple hours until I could get to somewhere
dude.
and actually wash my hands, dude.
That's
yeah,
disgusting.
it was gross, dude. It was gross. But...
What you just described is so, like, I read so many calls in Bankhead like that. For some reason, everybody rides dirt bikes and four-wheelers just up and down the streets like crazy.
Yeah. Same thing. These dudes were, like, driving up past Mercedes-Benz where we were sitting. They drive through on their bikes, these, like, little motorcycles and ATVs, and they're like, brr, 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 and we're like, yeah! And then, like, it's like, brr, 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 and they go down the street, and then all of a sudden there's, like, sirens and stuff, and cops are, like, hauling ass in the direction like this when some dude hit an APD officer with his ATV and, like, messed them up.
Dude, I think I heard about that.
I think, I can't remember exactly what happened to him, but...
Probably not intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume so.
Like,
but...
it'd be really dumb to kind of, unless you're like a full vehicle, to like be like, oh, I'm gonna do this real quick. This will go well for me.
Yeah.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think just going from your deployment into Atlanta to handle all that stuff, I guess you got a little taste of what Atlanta can get like.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was fun. It was interesting.
And too, the area where you're at, like Mercedes-Benz and stuff, a lot of people don't know, but like when people reference the other side of the tracks, there's neighborhoods back near Mercedes-Benz. That's the Bluff.
Yeah, for sure. I saw it. Like, I could totally see it.
Yeah.
We got up. So I made the mistake of giving out one of my, I had this like $60 pair of walkers, the Ear Pro, the electronic hearing protection. And I gave it to this kid, and this kid comes up and he's like, "Hey man," like he's just talking to us, and we got the CROW system on top of our truck, which is CROW stands for Crew Remote Operated Weapon System, CROWS, and it's you sit in the back of it's basically you can control this gun. It's like a robot. You control the gun up top from inside of the vehicle, so you're totally protected. It's pretty sweet. And they come up and they're asking us, and they're like, yeah, does it shoot lasers and stuff like that? And we're like, yeah, man. Like, it totally does.
It's like Star Wars.
And so I'm like, yeah, you want to see something cool, dude? And I put my Ear Pro on him, and he's like freaking out. He's like, wow, this is great. Like, and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, man, you can have him, man. Like, whatever. Yeah, some kid. I was like, I wasn't super attached to him, so I was like, yeah, just take him. And so he goes off, and then like, dude, this is like a couple hours later. Suddenly, I'm sitting there talking to my buddy. And then suddenly there's like 10 kids ride up on bikes, and the next thing I know, like we're getting ransacked. like they're like, "You guys got food in here and stuff, man?" Like they're just looking all over the place, and they're like taking our MREs, like all of our food and stuff, like our water, and they're like trying to get in. Like suddenly there's a kid in the driver's seat, and I'm like, what is going on? Like we just got ambushed by these kids, and I was like. Yeah, so I was like, look, like everybody get out of the truck. I'm like, get out of here, like go away. And then they're just gone. Like they just like, left out of nowhere. Yeah, yeah.
The type of stuff that happened like too on like a fire scene. Like you show up, you fight the fire, and you're coming out of the house, everything's done, and the whole neighborhood's out. Right. All of a sudden, moms are coming up with their kid. You're holding your kid with like your cancer-ridden like turnout gear. You're like, here, take my kid. Like, rubbing them all over you. All right, here we go. Yeah,
get in there, buddy.
Get in there. Yeah, they want to sit in the seat. They want to put on your helmet that's covered in sweat and
grossness,
like,
right?
Yeah, like carcinogens, like heavy amount of carcinogens. They're climbing all over the engine, and then you got like a couple hydrant wrenches that go missing or something. Dude, it's so funny.
Classic.
So what would you say the political climate feeling coming from Atlanta to DC? Did you feel like
it was two totally different reasons that were there?
Okay.
Like I said, with Atlanta, it was more like people were like upset, obviously upset about what happened, and it was kind of more of like we weren't out like. It would have been a different response from the Guard if we were, at least from the guys that I was with anyway, if it was like Antifa out there just causing a bunch of trouble and doing shit that, wasn't really cool versus people who were out here that were upset and, had a legitimate reason to be upset.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was totally different from Atlanta. And also I really wouldn't even call it like a riot because in the Capitol because that place didn't look anything like Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like if it was a legitimate riot and the people that went into the Capitol building were there to like, destroy things.
Yeah.
It would have been destroyed. It would have been absolutely destroyed. I've seen like Centennial Park, like was the Football Hall of Fame or whatever. That place looked like a bomb went off.
Yeah.
Like just blew everything out the front. Like the place was destroyed. Yep. So yeah.
It's weird to be in your hometown and see it look like a war zone.
Right.
That's weird to me.
Yeah,
and I've never been in a war zone.
Right.
But like whenever I was a part of or responded to some of those riots, and you walk around and you see people crying, like because their business got destroyed, and people like arms around them, things burning, like there's just a random car on fire that nobody's put out yet. It's just still burning.
Yeah, it's just been burning.
Smoking. Like it doesn't. It feels like this is a movie set. Like this isn't real life, and especially when it comes to. I mean, luckily we didn't have to deal with too much major trauma. I do have friends that respond to the Wendy's, especially like the shooting of the little kid.
Yeah.
Like I know guys who had to go deal with that. And even in those situations, you're so like decompartmentalize everything. Or I guess compartmentalize everything, I should say. And it doesn't feel real. Like, you're like, there's no way that this is happening right now.
Yeah.
There's no way that this is the street I've been driving to work to every day.
Right.
It's like really weird.
Yeah, it's like a weird, like you're looking through it like you're watching it happen in front of you, kind of like behind your own eyes type.
Yeah. Like that's really a good way to describe it. It sounds weird to say it like that, but that's how it is. It's like and it's the same thing with like mass trauma, like really bad trauma. It's like, this looks like a really bad 1960s movie prop.
Yeah,
is what it looks like.
Yeah, it doesn't look
like,
real, right?
Why is this blood so bright? And looks like Jello. It's like, it's weird whenever you have to like deal with that type of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've never been to DC, so it'd be. There's a big statue.
Yeah, it's like whatever.
Okay, so you get you finally get the call. You're like, all right, it's time to go. We're going to DC. What's like? Walk me through those steps.
So I had 8 hours of. My attitude was, I'm not doing anything until I was told. They're like, guys were like, yeah, like my buddies were kind of freaking out. They're like, yeah, we could be totally going to DC. I was like, we're probably not going to. I was like, I'm just gonna not freak out about it and then do whatever I got to do whenever I'm told to do it. So I just kind of hung out, and then they're like, oh yeah, well this is happening, and I was like, okay. And I had basically 8 hours between. It was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock that morning, it was more like 12 o'clock or something, and then I had to be at the armory at like 9 o'clock that night. So, and that was the same day. So
it almost sounds like there was like a sense of excitement on some people's end, and like, I guess that mentality goes anywhere.
Well, I mean, that would have been like 25,000 people. Allegedly, anyway, they said there's 25,000 people there. Guardsmen, that's 25,000 people.
That's a lot.
That's more people than we have stationed in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's an army.
Yeah, so if anybody shows up there, I don't know what they would be expecting, because there's so many of us.
Yeah. Well, that's a tactic in itself.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even if it was a big psyop, you could be like 25,000 people. Like, okay, well, why even go?
Yeah.
Like, basically. And we were everywhere. Like, there's no way. I mean, like, honestly, even when we didn't have guns, there's no way that you could have made it. And the way that DC was built up, it was like literally a fortress, especially the Capitol building. I would assume, especially the White House. I didn't get to see it, but like, there's no way. There was like big, like 9-foot tall fences, like blocking off. All the roads were blocked off. Like, there's no way you're getting in there.
So how did they get in?
They didn't. There was no like. There was apparently a protest area that they were allowed to be in, and there was maybe some people showed up. I never heard anything about it. I heard that there was a rumor that something happened.
Yeah.
But I never saw any of it, so.
That's surprising to me that.
Yeah.
if it's, and that's also been kind of the other conspiracy, almost a conspiracy behind that. Like, we need to, what we need to do is make some like tinfoil hats and just have them on the table. And then every time we start talking, put them on, and then that way nobody can clip us. Sound like, hey, they said this. Like, no, in the video they're wearing their tinfoil hats. You know, it's like a protection for us. But okay, conspiracy time. That was part of the thing, is that there was video footage of this, like one of the security guards literally grabbed this metal gate, and I don't know what he was doing, and I hate to take anything by 10 seconds. Yeah, he opens it and he starts waiting. He's like, "Come on, come on!" And then they ran in, they start scaling the walls, and I was like, "What is happening?"
I don't like it's super weird. You know, you have people. If the boys were there, and we were there for a reason, which is like, you know, okay, we're gonna get in there and we're gonna trash the place. Yeah, I mean, they were there so long. They were in there for such a long time. Yeah, I don't know.
They could have burnt it to the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. There's just more they just seem to really be there for just like a photo op, just to take pictures of them doing silly things, putting feet up on desk and stuff. Like, I don't know. Like
I put my feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk or whatever. I farted in her office.
High five, dude. Good job.
Right before they leave. Leave. This is like the biggest insurrection America's ever seen, is some dude in a buffalo costume farting.
Never in the history of the United States has anyone farted inside the Capitol building. So.
Yeah, exactly. History being made.
That was cool. I mean, I took a lot of pictures. Like, we got to go inside the Capitol building. I'm sure you heard about this thing about the dudes getting kicked out of the Capitol building.
I didn't.
You haven't heard about that?
No, seriously.
I've
been keeping up with
it. And you know, it's like so the entire time we were out there for about 7 days, and 5 of it was on like out there. Mm-hmm. And dudes were like, we go into the Capitol building, and dudes are like, there's like just sleeping everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's nice and warm, you know, and like.
Oh, I did hear about this.
They kicked him out to the parking garage.
Yeah, that's right. So, let's go ahead and talk about that one, because this is a whole issue in itself.
The thing is from my understanding, people were like holed up in the Capitol building. Mm-hmm. You know, the people that were there before we got there, and it was like election day. They got kicked out for a little bit. They're like, okay, you guys need to go like somewhere, and they're like in a parking garage, and they got all butthurt about that. And they're like, oh, they're kicking us out. We feel offended. And I'm like,
the guard got offended?
Yeah, the guard. Like I'm sure it's some private somehow got onto the news, and they're like, I'm pissed. And dude, I've been like out there like freezing my ass off for 5 days straight, bro. It was cold. Yeah. It was really cold. And like I was like out, like I had windburn. My face was all messed up and dry and gross because I'd been standing out there in the wind and the cold. It was like snowing on us. You know, not anything crazy, but like, and like, I'm like, like your job's not that hard, bro. Like you've been living in the Capitol. You've been sleeping. Who says they get to sleep in the Capitol building? You got kicked out for 2 hours and then you got let back in afterwards. I'm like, silly.
Yeah.
But whatever.
So that was the thing. They kicked him out, and they said they had to go sleep in a parking garage or something?
I don't even think they slept in it. They just moved him to a parking garage.
So they just had to go hang out.
And then after the inauguration was over, they let him back in. I would assume. I don't really know, but I think it wasn't that. Yeah, it was like the day after we like walked around, went to the Capitol building and stuff like that. So.
And I saw the parking garage, and I was like, "That's a nice parking garage."
Yeah, like, and you know, I spent time in a parking garage when I was doing Atlanta stuff. Like, we sat down, we're like in this underground parking garage out in front of the World Congress Center, and it was like, you know, it wasn't that bad. Yeah. Like, you could have been worse. You could have been standing out. Yeah. In front of the Capitol building for 12 hours straight, getting blasted by the wind, So,
and clearly they haven't visited some of their local fire stations. Go to Bankhead and visit your local fire station, where these guys live a third of their life. Like they have to cook here and eat here. Right. Yeah, there's a station in Atlanta that was so bad that what happened was they renovated some of it, and it was like, I guess maybe too heavy for what the foundation could. So it started breaking away. Right. So there was this gap between the bathroom and the bunk room, that you'd have to worry about, like in the middle of the
Like
night.
you like fall and like trip over it or
like
something.
you could trip in it. I mean, it was like this big, but it was like broken up, and you could see the ground, and that's how the rats and stuff would get
Seriously?
in. Yeah, and then like you would be sleeping.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And then like one of my first shifts there, I was filling in. It wasn't actually my station.
Right.
My station was
Just floating.
It was probably in our department. It was probably a bad station.
Right.
But in downtown, it was a really nice station. To put things in perspective.
Super funny.
So
Yeah.
I filled in. Somebody called out sick or something. I had to float. So I floated into this other station, and I'm there, and there in the mornings they do all their housework every morning.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, cool. So I go in there, grab the broom, and I like start sweeping the floor and stuff like that. And this guy like walks in as me sweeping. He's like, stop what you're doing. And I was like, what? Like, what's going on?
Right.
And he's like, don't sweep. And I was like, why? And he's like, the asbestos, bro, on the floor. Like, you're breaking up all this
That sounds ridiculous.
tiles and stuff like that. I was like, what? And then I noticed every time I worked there, I would get nosebleeds. And everybody
Nice, super cool, yeah.
Everybody was getting headaches, and they found out that it's because the station where the bunk room was supposed to be like flat where you sleep,
Right.
the part where everybody's heads was sinking like this.
Okay.
So basically, everybody was sleeping with their head
All
like,
their blood is like rushing in
yeah.
their
Like,
head.
so everybody's like waking up with like this, we're like, we don't know what's going on. Like, is it the tile? Is
That's
it whatever?
so funny, dude.
So whenever I saw like National Guardsmen had to spend.
Yeah.
I thought it was spend the night, but now that it's not even
I don't even
spend the
think it
night.
was a spend the night. Yeah, like we were all like, I don't know, dude. It's just people don't, especially if you have like non-combat arms MOSs.
Yeah.
They really take their like situation for granted. They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, this sucks. We got to live in a parking garage." And
Yeah.
we're like, "Oh, well, trade places with us. We'll take that parking garage.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care."
I guess it's not many people in our generation anyways, but there's a generation out there who had to sleep in foxholes in the winter
Right,
with their
right.
buddies rotting right next to them because they're
Right.
dead.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, you're complaining about
Yeah.
the parking garage.
Yeah, right.
Like you have a roof over your head at least.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Good times.
Good time. Great time.
Classic.
Classic. One thing I did want to talk about was what was the deal with the. You said they didn't have guns, but I saw people have guns, but there was like no mags loaded.
So we had ammo. We just weren't, we're not there to, like, people were like, "Oh, they're walking around, they don't have any mags in."
Yeah.
We're like, well, this isn't a damn war zone.
Yeah.
We're not here to kill people.
Yeah.
Like, why would we walk around with mags? There's an escalation of force. You can't just, that guy's got a picket fence or picket fence. He's got a fence. he's got a picket sign. Get him.
Yeah,
and like, you're just blasting people out of it. That doesn't make any sense.
Now up the 50 cal.
Dude, you see all these, like, man, and it was so cringe, bro. Like, you're seeing all these dudes who are like, "Oh, I was a Marine for 2 years back in 1920.
Yeah.
And back when I used to qualify with iron sights." And, like, all these guys walking around here and they're not marching everywhere. Who marches everywhere,
Yeah.
dude? Like, I don't know. It was ridiculous, dude. It was so silly.
And you're on your home soil.
Yeah, like,
Too. You're like-
you can't go in there like looking to shoot the first person that farts out of line or something.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. And even then, like, like, even we didn't have guns on inauguration day, but there were still people like on the farther out that did. There were other units that did. And we were like basically the last line of defense. Like, I've got pictures of during the inauguration. I could see like the stage and everything. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I was like right there. Like, if you pull up a map of the Capitol building, it'd show you exactly where I was.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
That's pretty crazy to be there at like such a historic event anyways, regardless of who's president.
yeah,
It's
for sure.
it's an American historic event. That's like really cool that you got to see all that.
Yeah, it was cool. It would have been nice to hear it, but
Yeah.
it was more.
It's like
And I'm like,
echoing off the
damn, this
building.
is really cold.
Yeah, that's I was wondering what was going on. So you had mags on you. You just
Yeah, when we had guns, we did. Yeah.
Okay.
So we had 2 mags. So
I got another question. What was the loyalty purity test or whatever that was everywhere? What's with all that?
I don't know what that was. People were like, yeah, they're getting like the FBI is vetting 25,000 people, And I'm like, well, there's a day left before the inauguration, so that's totally bullshit. Like, you can't, like, even if something crazy was going to happen, it just, I don't know. Maybe they did vet 25,000 people in 24 hours. I highly doubt that.
Yeah.
But people were getting, I think it was 12 people got taken, 12 people out of 25,000. So either their vetting process is really good or it sucks really bad.
Probably the latter. Most likely.
But like, it was something silly like some dude I think posted it's okay to be white on your thing, and they're like get them out of here.
What?
That's what I heard. I don't know how true that is.
So were they going through like social media?
Yeah, social media basically.
Oh, okay.
And they would look like people who had any sort of crazy, like, I don't know, just like crazy stuff, militant groups, militia groups, stuff like that. So
yeah, like you saw a picture of him wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, and like, oh go, yeah, get that guy out of here.
Throw him in the barracks,
So-
like lock him. Yeah, I pictured it like, because I've been a part of some of those mass like department-wide
Right.
investigations, and what they do is they'll say, okay, you need to, in our department, it would be like, hey, this group of people, if your name is called, you need to go to the training center.
Right.
And they throw you in like one of those rooms, and then they come in, they're like, okay, did anybody hear anything like that? And you heard it, you didn't hear, doesn't matter. You're
Right.
like, I just want to go back to the station and like hang out.
Right.
And they're like, okay, cool. Next group. There goes like 30 of them.
Right.
Like just because, or the one person will raise their hand. They're like,
Right.
like, all right, here's some papers. Like start filling out stuff and
Right.
interview. Nobody wants to go through all that. That was a big form of controversy. I don't know, like when you were there, were you able to like, were you keeping up with the news of what we were hearing at all? Or you were just there?
I mean, kind of, sorta. I mean, when we were out there like doing our actual shift,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't really like on our phones at all. We were just kind of like talking to each other, really, because we're just out there to. People want to like. We're also laughing at a bunch of like stupid things that came up. Like some poor woman, dude. They took this picture of her, like this really big lady just eating her food, and it like blew up, dude. And then, like, dude,
Like
it was
a National Guardsman?
Yeah, like a guardsman, and it was, dude, it was messed up. Like, there's people out there that are like you didn't even know they made uniforms that big.
Yeah.
Like, it was just out there, the classic National Guard stuff, and
Oh, jeez.
it's like.
I saw a picture of that.
It was one like Meal Team 6, and
Yeah,
they're all like,
you know-
they had this high. It's so funny because they have this high speed gear,
Yeah.
but they're all like terribly out of shape.
Yeah.
So they got these cool like plate carriers. Their chests are like
like-
ballooning over it, and they've got these high cuts and stuff. Like
I saw
it's
that.
ridiculous, but yeah, dude.
A bunch of those pictures went viral because there's a picture of them all standing in a line.
Yeah.
And like one guy's belly is so big that you see his plate carriers like canted.
Yeah,
like this.
yeah,
Like
dude.
it's just gonna.
It's classic. It's classic.
Or wait, you guys use ceramics or steel?
Sappies.
Yeah,
Sappies is the
Nobody's using
standard.
steel, right?
So yeah, it's silly.
So, I'm wondering what the mental process of, like, you get the call, you show up. Did they give you a reason of why you were going? Like, was it like a hey, just in case, or was it like hey, this is happening?
It was like, I mean, it was kind of like, it's. I don't know if there's like, I can't really remember like a specific reason. I mean, the reason we were there obviously is to basically guard the Capitol if something ridiculous happens. But yeah, I mean, that was really it. We were there to, the same thing as in Atlanta, protect like life preservation, property preservation, all that stuff. So the usual kind of, yeah. So, we weren't like, it wasn't like a regular brief where you're like, okay, so this is what maybe the enemy is, There's not like, oh, we got the enemy's 5,000 Antifa protesters and we're going to kick their ass. You're like, no, you're just there to basically make sure nothing goes wrong, more or less.
Yeah.
So,
and hopefully the show of force would like
deter people from
like, it's like they got the hammer and they're looking and then
bro, there's no way. The only way that you could have, like, I mean, there's no way that you would have made it to the Capitol.
Yeah.
With anything other than a legitimate, like, uniformed force because we were so deep in there. So
well, that was kind of the conspiracy though on the left side of things of that was going to happen,
right?
And that all these militant groups and the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys, which that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
A lot of people don't even understand what that is, and I have it hopefully soon in one of the Dire Armory podcasts coming up. We have. For sure, we have an Antifa interview nailed down with an organizer from. Actually, I probably shouldn't say because I don't know. They're really weird people. They're really sketch. Like they're like.
Oh, who knew?
Yeah. Have you ever been walking and walked up on a herd of white-tailed deer? That's what, dude. That's what it's like. You show up and it's like they all go. And they start looking around.
Really skittish.
Who's around me right now? And then one tail goes up, and they're all like. So I had to keep basically walking up to these herd of people and being like, "Hey guys, I'm not Antifa, but and then they're all like, what?" And then they're gone, I'm blocked, whatever. And I had to go through a bunch of groups. I had to talk to a bunch of people,
right? And
then finally. After the one person that was trashing me, one person actually engaged with me, but they were just trashing me, oh, nice try, Fed boy, and all this stuff. And I'm like, I just want an honest conversation, I want to give you guys a voice because everybody's saying that you're domestic terrorists and all this stuff.
Right.
I want to know from your perspective what's going on. And then this woman that was an admin for one of these groups was trashing me. But then all of a sudden she sent me a private message and was like, "Hey, I can hook you up." And I was like, "What?" Because she was saying Antifa's not we don't have a leader,
right? Well, that's
Antifa's
the thing is they're
yeah. And I was like, okay, but for sure you guys all show up wearing the same thing,
right?
For sure you guys all show up in the same place. So somebody's
to be a message board or subreddit or something.
However you guys are organizing,
oh,
I want to talk to the dude that's saying, "Hey, this is what we're wearing. This is what we're showing up." That's all I want to do.
Well, it's all falling apart now. That parlor's not a thing anymore. So.
Yeah, I guess. So anyways, we do have that coming up. But I'm wondering what your thought process is on, you get called out, you're ready to go. What did anything cross your mind? Okay, what if? My entire, I was honestly so when I was an active duty, I was airborne infantry, and you kind of really you can do everything right when you're jumping out of a plane and still get a catastrophic failure of your chute or something. For sure.
So you can basically die on any jump that you go on. This the probability is probably relatively low, but those things do still happen.
Yeah.
And so I was basically with the whole. I think it was in Tennessee where that RV blew up. Yeah. I was like, yeah, we're going to get V-bitted. Someone's going to drive a car in here and blow us up.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much, I was totally, that's what I accepted. I was if anything's going to happen, because there was a rumor that they found a V-bid in D.C.
Yeah, I heard
totally, about that. So that was totally unconfirmed. Some dudes were oh, hey, just so you know, so apparently they found a V-bid in D.C. I was that's going to happen.
What's the word you're saying?
Vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. So
okay.
VBIED.
Okay.
That's what I was pretty much counting on was... It wasn't going to be a full-on assault on the Capitol.
Yeah.
What is it? Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Inside the walls.
Yeah.
Come on, Pence, you're with me. I got
you. No, I was that's what in my mind was the biggest thing. And even the thought process going up to it, I was I signed up for it, so. Yeah. And I don't know, a gunfight at the Capitol would be dope. Who could say that who could ever say that they got into a gunfight at the Capitol?
Right. But the thought is there of these are Americans, that would be, I think, detrimental.
Yeah, no, so that's totally true. If a guardsman in whatever circumstance, killed a civilian or something like that, it probably would be a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not probably. It would be. It's obviously a big deal. You killing someone isn't a small act.
Yeah, but like a gunfight at the Capitol would be awesome if, for instance, you're there and all of a sudden these Russian planes are going.
Like,
and
right.
You see
yeah, exactly.
You're like, all right, everybody, come on, let's like strap up. You know,
the thing is like, and you like, I don't know. We're not like military police.
Yeah.
My company or my unit in particular, it's an infantry unit.
Yeah.
It's not MP unit or something like that. So it's, you kind of have like this thing of like, you're tasked with corralling these people basically, more or less. And if something goes sideways, you kind of always have to be like paying attention to whoever's around you, because with DC, not so much, but because there's nobody there. But like in Atlanta, people are like throwing like poop and stuff at you, like gross things.
What?
I never had that happen to me. Somebody said that they got like a piss bottle thrown at them or something.
Yeah, I can see that actually happening.
Yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, it's like the process of like going out there, you just kind of like accept it, really. Like I've been in the situation so many times where it's out of my control, so I just kind of, you can't really be upset about it. You can bitch all you want. You'd be like, oh, this sucks, dude. It's cold out here. Everybody bitches.
Yeah.
That's how you deal with it, really. But like, ultimately, it's like you're there for a reason, and everybody knows generally what the reason is. It's like people are like, oh, they think that morale is based on how comfortable you are, but it's like how morale is really your willingness to fight. It's not necessarily how comfortable you are. Like, if you're there with high morale, shit sucks. You're like, man, this sucks, dude. But if that Antifa dude comes up, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him. like something like that.
Yeah.
Basically in ridiculous terms, but like, it's the dudes that I was with definitely had a high morale. Like, we were out there for a reason. And it's, even if something ridiculous, some dude was saying like, oh, I'm gonna lay into this insider attack bullshit. Like, nobody would have let that happen. You couldn't. It wouldn't have happened. It would have been totally insane for anything crazy like that to happen. But
I'm wondering if that was more of just the political fear factor that they maybe were trying to drive.
So the thing is like, it kind of makes sense. It's like where we were all kind of pissed. We're like, we don't have guns. If something happens, so it's like, this is the Capitol. This is the stage where the inauguration was. There's a pond, and then we were right here.
Okay.
So we're like right in front of it. We could see it, and their idea, I guess, basically was like, if somebody was going to do something crazy, they were definitely within range of an M4. We still had dudes out there that had pistols, but an M4, like, that's 500 meters or more, depending on the circumstances. But like, so it made sense that we didn't have guns, because if somebody wanted to do off the wall crazy, they were within the range to do that. But people outside of us did have guns, so there were still people out there that were armed on Inauguration Day, just not us. But if they somehow had made it all the way through, everyone else that was there and made it through to the Capitol building, we basically would have been more or less probably not, because of the Secret Service and everything. But like, I don't know, it was crazy.
And they got like snipers and stuff.
Yeah, they had snipers.
I saw pictures of the dudes just
everywhere. They're all over the place.
Yeah, and they're watching. Like,
for sure.
They're scanning crowds. They got spotters. They're like on top of it.
Yeah.
That's just really wild. Like, obviously we haven't had a situation in the last couple 100 years where Americans had subdivided into two political groups and were killing each other over it. But it's like one of those things where it's like you would have to somehow in your mind rationalize what you had to do.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons I decided to be a firefighter instead of a police officer, is because I figured I couldn't rationalize having to shoot somebody, even if that person was a harmful person.
Right.
And those thoughts kind of have gone away in a sense. Not that I would enjoy or it would be terrible, you know, to
obviously,
take a life. Sure. And even in self-defense, like there's stories of people, even in self-defense, blatant self-defense shootings, that they're messed up for forever. But whenever you run these calls and you see that people that are Americans behave the way they do, and they abuse children, and they sometimes even physically torture children, or they're doing these terrible things, and then you see police like slamming them on the ground, you get like kind of a good feeling.
Like something, you can take the liberty to be a little rough with this dude.
Yeah, you're like, okay, this guy, and I feel like maybe if it did come down to actually a militia, like a insurrectant militia that could somehow match the power of the military, which they can't. Right. Even if you had 20,000 militia members,
it would take like. There's no way.
Your AR-15, none of this stuff on this wall is going to do anything to match your whatever robot space gun.
It would take like.
You would have to have such an overwhelming force.
Yeah, for sure.
Even 5 guys versus 1 fully automatic.
Right.
Gun. Done. You guys are done.
Right.
So, I see what you're saying, but I kind of got off a rabbit trail there. But the whole thing of having, I could see how maybe a National Guardsman or somebody that would be called to maybe deal with some type of insurrection and possibly have to kill civilians.
Right.
You would have to compartmentalize or rationalize that something in your head of like, okay, these aren't like Americans.
So the thing is like,
they are, but
there was a big thing about that in Atlanta too. Is like, like these people are like civilians.
Yeah.
They're like, obviously they are, and they're also Americans. But at a certain point, you go from being a civilian to a combatant.
Yeah.
If a dude pulls out a gun and, I don't know, whatever, he starts shooting at us. Mm-hmm. Let's just say he cuts straight to the point and just starts shooting at us. Like, you've turned yourself into a combatant. Like, you signed yourself up for what's about to happen next. So, like...
You need Swiss cheese.
Yeah, and it's like... And you can't, like... And like, with me, I don't get caught up on the fact that, these are Americans, right? Like, obviously, that is important to me. I'm not saying it's not, but it's the same thing, like self-defense. You can't not defend yourself because someone's an American.
Yeah.
Or... people do messed up stuff every day, and you got to do what you got to do. But depending on how important it is to you, but I don't know. That's basically it.
Yeah, and I can see, and I've been personally in those situations. Like one time we had this. I honestly don't know what's going on because, and you know how it is in the fire department. Like a lot of people think like, when you respond to these things, like, what's going on, or
most of the time you have like little to no information.
Yeah, like you
check your cat and it's like, patient is old.
You're like, all right,
cool. You're all right.
It's like,
he's like 25 or something.
Yeah, he's got a gun and he's got hostages. And you're like, what the, but like, it came out as like a officer involved shooting.
Right.
So we show up. And it's not an officer-involved shooting. It's a full-on standoff.
Right.
And apparently these guys, there was like 2 of them, I think, or 3. There was 3 of them. I never saw the third guy, but I saw 2 of them. But there were 3 total, and they had holed themselves up. And, you've been in Bankhead. There's abandoned buildings everywhere.
Oh, yeah, everywhere, right.
It's just a wasteland, and there's tires piled up everywhere and everything. I guess one of these guys have kind of holed themselves up in there. And they called us out because basically they were like, there's about to be an officer involved shooting.
Right.
Like, and, SWAT's there, the big black van's there, the unmarked, everybody's there. And we're kind of...
CNN.
Yeah. I'm like...
We're on scene.
We're on scene here at
a potential officer involved shooting.
Yeah, potential about to be officer involved shooting. And these guys were shooting at the officers from like a window, I guess. And I was pretty distanced from it because, we stage far.
Right.
The problem is in Atlanta is you really can't stage that far.
Yeah.
So we're hanging out, whatever. Well, basically these SWAT team or whoever they were, they just swarm them. And there's a bunch of gunfire all of a sudden, and then it's just quiet. And then they just walk out. And then they're like, all right, you guys are good. And they're like, what? You know? So, like, we go in, and a dude's, like, laying, like, on the stairs all crumpled up. Another guy on the bottom, all Swiss cheesed.
Yeah.
There's, like, the blood was going
Probably
down the
blood
stairs.
everywhere, yeah.
And there was, like, coagulated blood, and it was, like, dripping, but, like, coagulated. So it was, like, icicles.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
They were, like,
ridiculous.
Jell-O icicles.
Right.
And I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is stuff that happens in movies. This
Right.
isn't real life, you know? These aren't real bodies,
Right.
you know? But the thought to have to get called, hey, we need you to go to Washington. We need you to deal with possible insurrectionists that may be armed. You know, like,
Right.
you flew there. Like,
No, we drove.
you drove?
Yeah, we drove. We took charter buses, but whatever.
How long was that drive?
9 hours or so, something like that. Yeah, I'm still like messed up from it.
Yeah,
like I'm like sleeping in this chair.
Your neck doesn't.
Yeah.
Your neck is like crooked now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long drive to be thinking about what might happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm an overanalyzer. I don't know how you are, but like on my way to any scene, I'm like, okay, we need to think about this. We need to think about this. We need to think about this.
Right.
What if this happens? You know, do I have all my gear? I'm like, I'll check my gear like 3 or 4 times before I go in. I'm like, okay,
Right.
I do have my light. Okay, I got my, like, I always make sure I got like my hood on.
Right.
For some reason, something in my head says like, oh, you forgot your hood. Like, or it's, you know, whatever.
right.
Even though I do it 1,000 times, but because my muscle memory is so there, I don't really remember actually doing
yeah.
it. So I like double check. But like, if that were me going there, I would be like thinking of every possible scenario and probably freaking out a little bit of
Right.
what I might have to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a point where I was kind of like worried about it, but like once like you get with the boys and everybody's there and everybody is basically on the same page, you know, you're just kind of like, there's a lot of joking about like, whatever, you just kind of talk to the boys and you're just like, you can't really get worked up about it because you still have a job to do.
Yeah.
If you're out there and you're like, oh, like
Yeah.
getting skittish about every little thing, you can't do your job effectively if you're just out there being paranoid about it, like literally everything. It's really like, especially in the military and especially like infantry, is like being able to just react to being on like a purely reactive status where you're just doing your job and also ready to react to literally anything, like at any moment in time. So it's basically, especially how a lot of my like company in particular works off of, is just being reactive to every little thing that happens. You know, you can't, okay, well, we have to do it this way. You're like, oh, well, this happened, so now we can't do it that way.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, let's, shape it up and to do it however we have to get it done. So it's,
And I can see how that mentality would happen because that's how I feel, is like I'm that way all the way, and you show up and you've got a lot of times you don't have command because they show up later, but you show up, you have an officer. If you've trained with that officer, they know what they're talking about,
right?
And you see what's going on. You see which window fire's blowing out of, and you're like, okay, I need to do this,
right?
And you just kind of kick it into gear and go. So I'm assuming it's
basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It comes down to a lot of like just being flexible and not getting bent out of shape when something doesn't go necessarily right.
Yeah.
And just dealing with, like, I don't know, I can't really give you an example, but like if something goes sideways, like you're like, okay, this is going good, and you're like, oh, suddenly now a truck has a flat tire or something. You can't be like, oh, we're doomed. Like, you have to, okay, well, let's get this fixed and then keep going. Or if the route changes or something like that, you know, you just have to be, you can't get worked up on things that don't necessarily matter. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to close out here, but what do you think, what are you hoping that, like, the American people kind of take away from what happened? Like, is there, like, something that you're, like, if you were, when you were there, and you could have had the microphone in front of the TV, and you could just be like, look, guys, like, knock it off, or, like, what would you say to everybody, like, in that moment, do you think?
Let me think. I don't know. I mean, like, we have things that we could be working on working together towards more as like a people instead of getting bent out of shape about like a new president or something. You
Yeah.
know, presidents like come and go, obviously, as you can see. It's like we have like other shit to worry about.
Yeah.
like important things. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It just also I want ammo to come back. I want to go shoot again. So whatever we have to do to make that happen, that's all I care about.
All right, dude. Well, dude, thanks for coming on and
yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, cool.
Word.
Direcast 4 done.